The special paradox: how caring for others helps us grow. Hello, everyone. Have you ever had this experience? When you're playing chess, you can't see the perfect move, but when you're watching someone else's game, you suddenly notice it. Oh, they should move there, you think. This isn't just a coincidence. Today, I'd like to talk about this fascinating paradox: how caring for others actually helps us grow. Many people think that caring for others involves self-sacrifice or service, but what I want to discuss today is something completely different. It's about the fascinating phenomenon of how focusing on others can actually accelerate our own growth. Part 1: The Magic of Perspective Shift. Have you ever given relationship advice to a friend and thought, I couldn't see these solutions when I was dating, but now that it's my friend's situation, the answers seem obvious? This is exactly the paradox I'm talking about. My friend Alex is a programmer, and he says he finds bugs much faster when reviewing a colleague's code than when looking at his own. When I look at my own code, I'm trapped in my own thinking and miss things, but with someone else's code, I can see more objectively. This happens in sports too. Soccer players often spot mistakes or opportunities they miss during a game when watching the replay later. That's why many famous coaches were once players themselves. They had time to observe the game from the outside, allowing them to see the bigger picture. In psychology, this is called psychological distance. We don't have the luxury of stepping back from our own problems, but when looking at someone else's problems, we gain a broader perspective. Part 2: The Magic of Psychological Distance, the Secret to Growing Through Others. Let's explore this concept of psychological distance in more detail. It's truly a fascinating psychological concept. Psychological distance simply refers to how far removed you feel from a problem or situation. Your own problems have close psychological distance, while others' problems have greater psychological distance. Here's where something interesting happens. Research shows that the greater the psychological distance, the more our brains can see abstract patterns and the bigger picture. Conversely, when distance is close, we focus on details. This is called construal level theory, studied by psychologists Trope and Lieberman. In one study, participants were asked to solve their own problems and a friend's problems. The results showed they came up with more creative solutions for their friends' problems. Why? Because of psychological distance. Let me share a personal experience. When I'm writing and get stuck, I often ask a friend, what would you write next? They usually suggest directions I hadn't even considered. Now when I'm stuck writing alone, I ask myself, what would someone else do in this situation? Amazingly, new ideas start flowing. This effect of psychological distance appears in many fields. Chess grandmasters discover more winning strategies when analyzing others' games rather than their own. Doctors diagnose patients' health issues more accurately than their own. NYU psychologist Etzioni explained that when we're too close to our own problems, emotions can cloud our judgment. But when looking at others' problems, we can see more clearly without that emotional interference. So how can we use this psychological distance? This is where caring for others becomes important. When we genuinely care about someone's situation and try to help them, we naturally create psychological distance, which leads to broader perspective and creative solutions. Part 3: Methods to utilize psychological distance for self-growth. How can we actively use this phenomenon in our daily lives? First, intentionally activate mentor mode. When listening to a friend or colleague's concerns, think, if I were an objective mentor looking at this situation, what advice would I give? This will help you see your own problems from a different perspective too. For example, famous Japanese chess master Sato improved his own game while teaching students. By organizing my thoughts to explain to my students, I gained a deeper understanding myself, he said. Second, learn through questioning. When helping someone, instead of immediately offering solutions, start by asking questions. What would you do in this situation? By asking these questions, we explore various possibilities ourselves. Third, try role reversal thinking. If you have a problem, imagine it's your close friend's problem. What advice would you give them? Surprisingly, this often relaxes our harsh self-standards and brings more wisdom to our approach. My college junior overcame job hunting stress using this method. I thought about what advice I'd give a friend in this situation. I realized I was being too hard on myself, which reduced my pressure. Fourth, adopt an educator's mindset. American physicist Richard Feynman said, "To truly understand a concept, try teaching it to someone else." This is the famous Feynman technique. When we try to explain something to others, we discover our knowledge gaps and deepen our understanding. This doesn't just apply to studying. People learning to cook often improve their skills when teaching recipes to other beginners. Spanish chef Ferran Adria said, "I learned cooking techniques fastest when I started teaching others." Fifth, practice the law of sharing. The more we share our knowledge and experience, the more solid and rich it becomes. Indian spiritual leader Sai Baba said, "When you share what you have, it doesn't diminish, it multiplies." In fact, one study showed that students who volunteered had higher academic achievement than those who didn't. By helping others, they developed their own abilities simultaneously. Discovering my potential through others. We've explored how caring for others leads to personal growth. To summarize everything in one sentence: when we try to solve others' problems, we gain psychological distance and can see the bigger picture. World-class tennis coach Brad Gilbert said, "As a player, I focused only on my play, but as a coach observing other players, I understood the essence of the game more deeply." This is the power of psychological distance. Going back to our chess example, the reason spectators often spot better moves than the players is simple: they're free from the emotional burden and pressure. Start using this principle in your daily life today. When listening to a friend's worries or helping a colleague with a project, remember that moment is your growth opportunity. And when facing your own problems, ask yourself, how would someone else view this situation? I encourage you to practice this beautiful paradox where genuinely understanding and helping others ultimately makes you a better person. Please share your experiences in the comments. See you in the next video. Thank you.